Hey there, Groovesters, Groove Stars, Ridgely here. Excited to be with a dear friend to go way back. I mean, even though we're still very young, we call her the referral diva. And yes, she's really good at that. And we're going to get some great tips. Virginia Muskis, thank you so much for joining us. I am so happy to spend some time with you.
Oh my God, Ridgely, it is so great to reconnect with you. You are absolutely one of my favorite humans. So it's great to have this conversation.
Well, and we have all these entrepreneurs out there who are looking for the secret sauce, the special thing. What does it look like? Love to have a conversation about that. But take us back a little bit. Were you always an entrepreneur? Did you start out that way early on, or was there a transition thing? What happened? What's the story?
So I would say that I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Like when it came to selling Girl Scout cookies or beach towels or candy bars or, whatever we had to sell for fundraising in school, or in 4-H or whatever, I was always really good at that. And I've always been really driven to sell something to somebody. I went to school for Spanish language and literature because I was directionless and I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know myself all that well. And then fell into Mary Kay Cosmetics, and had a great run. And then I had a direct sales epic fail, which we won't talk about today, but that is a podcast on the Badass Direct Sales Mastery podcast, if anybody's interested in the direct sales epic fail. But really, I think I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I got into BNI as a Mary Kay consultant, became great friends with the owners of the BNI franchises. Teresa Simon mentored me for years, sold me her BNI franchises. We opened up a Referral Institute franchise together. Long story short, it's all driven me to where I am today. I love people. I love connecting the people I meet to the people they need to know. And I love teaching people how to do that because I think um, everybody's trying to these days is trying to shortcut what you and I know is the foundation of success, which is doing your first $250,000 by referral. So I think if you're not networking and you're not getting referrals and you're not building out your connections and you're not cementing that, then you're going to have a real hard time getting into that multi six figure space. And so I just love helping people across that line so they can get out of the growth to scale conundrum and kind of bridge that and then be able to start hiring and delegating and creating jobs, which by the way is what I think entrepreneurs are called to do, is create opportunities for others.
So for everybody that's on here, I have to share this common thing because when I landed at the University of Virginia as a directionless person who just went there because my dad went there and told me I should go there, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I of course grew up in Spain. So what did I become? A Spanish major because it was the easiest possible major that I could come
Super
up with.
fácil.
Super fácil, and I spoke Spanish better than most of those teachers there. What was
Yeah.
funny though was I played soccer on the team of the dean of the Spanish department. And he pulled me aside one day and said, I've been watching what you're doing, and you can no longer be in my department unless you take classes to the level of what you speak. And I became
Mm.
the youngest undergraduate student in the graduate Spanish literature program in the history of the University of Virginia,
And
arguing for
UVA is a tough school, man.
yeah.
Like people tout Ivy League, and UVA is like I went to Dartmouth, and right here, woo, we all like, we honor and recognize the quality of that. That's amazing.
It was super fun, man. I was a young punk, and we'd have poets in residence coming to UVA, and I would be arguing with them about the meaning of their own poetry because I was too
Mm-hmm.
dumb to know any better. While everybody else is, oh, that's you're a poet so and so, and I'm like, what do I know? It was great. But
There's originally critiquing Pablo Neruda. Come on now.
well, no, but Gabriel Garcia Marquez, I did. So there you
Did
go.
you really? Oh
Yes.
God, that's going to get us on a whole other diatribe that your audience does not care about. So we'll have to do that
No.
over a glass of wine.
But you know what ended up happening is because of all that was how I got to be Jim Rohn's voice in Spanish, traveling all over
Yeah.
the world with Jim Rohn as a translator and doing all kinds of stuff. So you never know. We could take funny moments and they take you down a track, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's like, okay, let's make the best of this, I guess is the lesson there, so to
Well,
speak.
I think there's that, but here's and are you a PG podcast, or is my potty mouth gonna get us in trouble or what?
Well, just mind yourself. You never
I'll
know who's.
mind myself. Okay. So the lesson there is you were invited to do something difficult. You were invited to do a hard thing. You were invited to do a thing that was really above your comfort level. It was like, wait a minute, I'm just an undergrad and you're sticking me with these graduate students. I don't belong here. This is not like I might have a skill level, but emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, right? Like you had a lot of raw that like and young and yet you just said yes. And I think that is where so many of us um that are successful, people are like, oh, you're so lucky. I'm like, I'm not lucky. It's just when someone offers me a scary thing, I just go, oh, okay, because the worst that's going to happen is I'm going to learn. I've
Yeah.
lost. Oh, I've lost big. Like Jay Facette talks about his wheelbarrow full of cash that he set on fire in his backyard. I mean, how many times have we set wheelbarrows of cash on fire in our backyard by saying yes to a thing? But I've never counted it as loss. Like over time, there's all this wisdom and all this juice that you squeeze out of the lemon, and I think that is one of the keys to entrepreneurial success, is that willingness to say yes to the uncomfortable opportunity that you have no business. Like someone extends a hand and you're like, I have no business playing at that level, but
You know,
okay.
at Virginia, the crazy thing was we went on and formed the first ever Spanish theater group that became the first traveling Spanish theater group of the Eastern Seaboard that was still in use last time I checked. It was so much fun. And we did all kinds of goofy productions in
Mhm.
Spanish. So getting to really use that skill. Yeah, caramba, caramba. Ay, ay, ay. All right. So moving on here, we're going to get back
Yeah.
to the business at hand.
It's not about us, Ridgely. This is about
I
your
know,
audience. Let's go.
but it's interesting. All
It
right. So
is.
so you've been in this entrepreneurial space for a long time. If you had to peg a couple of the most successful traits, the most valuable traits of the entrepreneur, what would those be?
So I think saying what I just said, saying yes to the uncomfortable opportunity. Um, and I'll backtrack that with just a little help for people to be able to say yes, is that people at a certain level, you hit a certain level and you're ready to reach out, and money is not a problem anymore. You're not interested in making more billions, whatever. You're really interested in passing along your wisdom and creating that legacy, that ability that when you're gone, people are still talking about you and the difference that you made, right? And so we have to realize that when we say yes and then follow through and do a good job, we're actually a gift to the mentor, right? So that's number one, is to say yes to the uncomfortably large opportunities that come our way, even when we don't feel qualified. You'll get qualified in the process. I
Mm-hmm.
think another thing that is really important, and this not only will save your business, this saved my life. And that is that you and you know what your values are, and you know who you are and what your moxie is, and you know what you're made of. And so I think a lot of times others will put their limiting beliefs on you because that's the best they know, or they want to keep you safe or whatever. So I've always taken a tactic of saying, I understand that that's your perspective based on your history and based on your history and experience has brought you to this point, so you naturally have that perspective. I haven't walked those shoes, and so that belief is a lesser belief than what I can embrace. Like I cannot embrace that. And when the doctors told me, just this is your new normal, I was like, ha, I understand that that's your belief based on your knowledge, experience, and network, but that is not true for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so 2 years later, I'm back in the saddle. According to them, I should be walking with a walker and taking 97,000 pills every day. But that's true of business too. And so deciding who you are and sticking to your guns and standing your ground and understanding that other people have a perspective and other people have preferences, but that's not how to define your world or
Yeah.
to define your own success.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big one. And you said three. I think the last one, which has been the really big learning curve for me over the last couple of years, has been there's always a new shiny object. And while I don't think that we should not investigate and inform ourselves, for example, AI, which you're talking about a lot right now, okay? That's something that I'm not jumping into and like abandoning all my business practices so that I can just do AI now. I'm not doing that. But I'm like, I wonder how this AI thing complements the path that I'm on and the strategy that I'm using. And so like I found out that the Jeff Walker funnel thing,
Mhm.
not for me. I can't be happy juggling all those balls
Mhm.
and writing all those emails and creating all that content and making the websites and corralling the partners and making leaderboards. And like, I'm like, wow, I tried it. I didn't like it. I tried it again because like I thought, all right. And that because I hated it so much was an epic fail, like absolutely epic. And so I sat down and I said, what do I love? And I was like, I love talking to people. So guess what my strategy is? It's LinkedIn Live, podcast funnels, and webinars. Like that's what I like to do. So I'm just gonna do what's natural to me. Some people love to write. So great, write your blog, write your emails, write your book. I do video. It's easier for me to blab. And now with AI, I can just transcribe it and turn it into all kinds of fun content, right? But you got to do what's natural to you and not follow the latest greatest shiny object because somebody promised you seven figures. Cuz it won't work for you if it's not for you.
I want to just touch on that AI point that you made because I resisted at the beginning and then kind of did some more research and said, wait, okay, hold on, let me pay attention here, and then dove in a big way. However, the key thing that I share with everybody that's on my own AI mastermind or anytime I have an opportunity is use AI just like you suggested, Virginia, which is in your zone of genius. You
Yeah.
don't use AI if you can't play an instrument like me. I'm not using AI to write a symphony, right? If I
Right.
can't draw a stick figure, I'm not using AI to create artistic masterpieces. I'm using AI inside the space that I play in. And when you do that, it can enhance, accelerate, amplify what you're doing, but not, oh, this is now going to solve everything because there's this giant brain out there. Well, who cares if you don't know, if you don't have subject matter knowledge on a particular thing and you try to go in there and use AI, then you're putting a bunch of garbage in on the front end. Guaranteed what you're going to get on the back end is going to be the same.
Well, yeah, and one of the things for me is I don't use AI particularly to create the content. I use AI to bullet point things, consolidate the content. I love using Descript to edit videos. I mean, what is easier for Pete's sake than just deleting and then regenerate it. So it just makes it's editing is easier than scrolling back and forth and clipping and like it just makes it faster. So I
Mhm.
look at it and I say, okay, how does this make it faster? How does it make it easier? A lot of stuff, for example, I have my virtual assistants do, and then they send it to me. So they take a podcast, they run it through Cast Magic, and then they send the quotes to me, and I pick the ones I want. Or because Cast Magic or any other AI doesn't understand context. So it just pulls out sound bites that it thinks are cool for whatever reason based on some algorithm. And we had one that said the podcast guest was saying, some people think, oh, don't be vulnerable. People will take advantage of you. So the AI pulled out a quote that said, don't be vulnerable. People will take advantage of you, which as entrepreneurs, we know that, no, that's not the right advice, but the AI doesn't know it. So you do have to like fact check the thing. It's not perfect.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
not perfect, but it does speed things up. So,
And again, if you're using it where it can definitely amplify what you're doing in a big
mhm.
way, make it much quicker, better, faster, so to speak. But I don't go outside my zone. I'm like, nope, this is my lane. This is what I do. I just go faster. All right. So talk to me about mentorship. What has it meant for you in your development? What would you say to someone who's like, Wow, I've heard a lot about this mentor thing. I wonder if I should get one.
Yeah. So let me this is my deal. There's a big difference between a coach and a mentor. Let's just coaches you pay money to, mentors you work your ass off. So that's all I'm like if somebody says to me, you can I would love to mentor, you can join my program at cost or for free or whatever, right? What I know is that I better be the best success story humanly possible. And I better be like the video reel, and I better be the one that's being invited back to the events to tell my story and tell the story of how this works, right? There has to be something in it for the mentor, but it's not money. And I believe that mentorship is far more powerful than pretty much any other form of development, except maybe masterminding. I don't know. Mentorship and masterminding, there's one that's sort of got that peer element to it, and then the guru mentor. I don't know. But mentorship, because of mentorship, I am where I am. Because Teresa Simon saw something in me and mentored me, I'm now one of the top franchises in BNI, and I have my master connectors business because of that mentorship. The mentorship that Jay Facette, for example, has provided for me, the mentorship that just so many others have come in and provided, have grown me in ways that a coaching program never would. I don't feel the same level of commitment. Like in a program, I pay you and I do the work or I don't, and that's on me. In mentorship, you give me your advice and I do it or I don't. But if I don't do it, then pretty much I'm not being mentored. So there's a higher level of commitment for performance and success for me in the mentor-mentee relationship. And I don't mind mentoring people if they're actually following the process and doing the work and getting the result. Where I draw the line is when I'm working with somebody in a mentorship relationship and they're not following my advice. And because I'm like, if you don't follow my advice, then I'm wasting my breath. And there's somebody out there that could actually use my help.
So corollary to mentorship, because I feel the same way that you do, what about personal development and continuing to sharpen your sword? How important is that to the entrepreneur?
It's endemic. You cannot advance as an entrepreneur without changing your identity multiple times. Right now, Ridgely, I have an opportunity. I'm going to cry. It's so scary. We're talking about those big opportunities. I have an opportunity to be a multi-million-dollar producer this year, and I've never produced seven figures. I've gotten close, but I've never crossed the seven-figure line. And I have an opportunity right now to work with somebody that not only is going to mentor me, but is going to provide some resources and some things that are going to result in that. And I was reading today and I was reading something motivational and I was like, I don't need motivation right now. I need to read biographies of people that have crossed this line and what they've overcome and what they've done. And I need to be mentored by a person who's going to make me into a seven-figure person so that I don't sabotage it along the way. Because as long as I only have the skill set and I only have the level of identity of a multiple six-figure earner, that seven-figure number feels big. I don't deserve, like I have all kinds of things in there, but it's not true that I don't deserve it. And it's not true that I'm not capable. And it's not, none of that's true. It's just, there's an identity gap between 750,000 and 1.5 million. There's an identity gap. And so the role of personal development is to bridge the identity gap so that you can become the person standing at the end with arms wide open to receive what's coming your way. So as that thing is building, the personal development goal is to get you far enough ahead of what's in process so that you can receive it as it runs across the finish line. So it's like you got to get to the finish line and you gotta like catch what's coming across the line. And I think if you don't do that personal development, you just keep owning your dumb stories and your limiting beliefs, and you keep telling yourself, all the stuff that you tell yourself, you can't have what you want unless you become the person that can embrace that.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, for sure. I think that's exactly right. It's that got to have that inner game going on for
Mm-hmm.
sure. I had a buddy tell me, I love this. Uh, you have to stomp out the ants, the automatic negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. Got to get rid of those automatic negative thoughts. All right. So tell me about one. Pick one of those colossal, epic fails and tell me what you learned from it, what you took away from it. I know you've had a few. Just pick whichever one you want and go,
Oh
well,
my God. Okay. So
I
the
love that.
most recent one was I hired a really, really competent, really respected, really amazing, amazing coach who it was kind of a hybrid coaching mentorship relationship. And 2 years ago, I got that Guillain-Barré syndrome and I was very sick and I had lost I lost a whole lot like in the process. And I wasn't being kind of self-reflective enough to know, like, just stop, just stop, stop. And so one of my biggest MOs, which is no longer this is no longer part of my identity. Like I killed this part of my identity is like, I have grit and I will succeed and I will, like, and I just kept plowing. But the problem was, like, I was digging a trench to hell, right? Like I was like plowing through, but I was definitely digging the hole, not not digging my way up. I was like digging my way down. And unfortunately, this mentor coach um didn't kind of didn't get what was going on, was very frustrated, like, you're not doing what you're doing, you're not turning in your stuff to me, I can't help you, like, really frustrated. But neither one of us, like, I was gritting and grinding and he was like, pecking and nagging, and I was gritting and grinding and pecking, and then it all exploded into a major what show, right?
Mhm.
And um I just at that point it was like we were like, I'm done. Well, I'm done too. So we had a tough one, and wrote a letter and I said, look, this is not you, this is not me, I don't know what's going on, I need some space, let me figure it out, I'll get back to you, you do your reflection, I respect you, I'm never going to throw you under the bus on this one, whatever we co-created, we just, that's what it is. And really what I came to realize is that grit and grace are not necessarily things that go hand in hand.
Mhm.
And what I decided was first things first. So I stopped trying to grit and grind my way to be successful at all costs. And I decided, okay, what is the number one thing I need to be successful at? And for me, that was my health. And so I just calmed down. I hired people to do my fulfillment on some courses that I had sold. I started focusing on my health. I figured out what was wrong, figured out the health thing, right? Like, so now where I'm at, which is super exciting, is my executive function is not only restored, it's better than it was because I started taking measures, like learning about cognitive function and executive function, and what kind of executive function do I need to have to be able to do the things that I need to do, right? And to be organized, and to stop saying I thrive in chaos, because guess what? Nobody thrives in chaos. Chaos is chaos. There's no thriving in chaos. That's just an absolute bunch of BS. And so what I learned out of that, like, and it cost me, like, I'm still paying the bill, Ridgely. I'm still like paying the bill on that one. Is that some lessons come at a high price, but the higher the price, the better, the more valuable the lesson. And So I'm just like super chill about pretty much everything. Nothing gets me ruffled, nothing gets me upset, nothing. I'm like, there's got to be an answer to this. If it's not working out right now, it's because it's supposed to be this way. Like, just not. And I just gave up chaos and grit and grind. And
Mhm.
I've substituted it for um I don't even like, I guess
Well, you use the word
gracious.
grace. You use the
Yeah,
word
like,
grace, and I love that. Grit versus grace is kind of a cool comparison.
well, they conflate them, right? Like grit and grace, grit and grace. And I'm like, all grace, no grit. Like, resilience is a thing, but what I found is grace and gratitude are the stuff of resilience. It's not grit and grind. And I just made that up, but it's brilliant.
Yeah, no, that is, you see me scribbling over here, grit and grind versus grace and gratitude. I kind of
Yeah.
love that. All right, just saying.
It's been so, you know, I don't get sick. I'm not exhausted. I'm not like, I used to have two emotions, originally pissed off and not so much. And just to walk through the world and try to be someone's grace for the day, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's the waitress at the diner or the guy at the car wash or
Mhm.
the homeless dude on the street, whatever it is, right? This complete um grace and gratitude, because people are giving me grace all day long, and the gratitude for that just makes you more gracious.
Mhm.
And it's just it's been just such an easier way to live. And here's the interesting thing, this, like, I'm getting all emotional about this. It's like I've become the person you've all seen in me all these years.
You know, I will
Like,
always, I will forever remember you saying, I just want a hot cup of coffee. I can't get a hot cup of coffee here. And I just said, I'm gonna find you one. And I did in Canada. That was hilarious.
can I tell you a story about that? Just to understand. Can I look? I'm so emotional right now. It's embarrassing. Okay. So I I tell that story very often because the really funny thing was I said something really cheeky about, like, something was going on, and I said about my coffee, I was like, just flog me, right? Like, I was just, he said it. And the person next to me goes, oh, I could make you do naughty things. And then you showed up with the coffee, and I go, no, he could make me do naughty things. I don't know who you are, but really. So I tell that story. And during the pandemic, Doug Sandler, JJ Flizanes, and Michael Neely were going to, I can't remember where in California. They were going to do like a little wine tour because the wineries were open. And so they called me and they were like, hey, do you want to come out and just hang out with us? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I flew in and I stayed the first night before we went to the wineries. I stayed over at Michael Neely's house. And in the morning, I come downstairs and Neely has this piping hot cup of bulletproof coffee. And he says, like, hope it's as good as Ridgely's, right? And I was like, okay, that's hilarious. But it gets better. So I'm telling Scott Conway, my right hand guy, right? I'm telling Scott Conway, and Scott knew about the Ridgely coffee, and then I tell him about the Michael coffee. So I'm on the marketers cruise, and there's a knock on my door. And I open the door, and my cabin steward is there with a pot of hot coffee. And he says, Mr. Scott wants you to have this coffee. And I was like, what the heck? And he's like, well, if Ridgely and Michael do it, I think I should do it too, right? So then he takes his mom on a cruise. This was last year. He takes his mom on a cruise, and he thinks, well, my mom doesn't drink coffee. She drinks hot tea. But if Ridgely does it for Virginia and Michael does it for Virginia and I do it for Virginia, I should do it for my mother. So then his brother takes his mother on a cruise. And his brother's like, well, if Scott does it for mom, I should. So literally, like women all over the world are now getting hot beverages because of you.
I love that. That's so fun.
Funny.
And just a simple gesture that can go a really long way. It's amazing that how that works out.
Yeah,
So
it's
here's
crazy.
my favorite fun question.
Okay.
If you could hop into a time warp and go click and go back 25 years and
Mm,
speak to a youthful, even more youthful than you are today, a youthful Virginia, and with all the wisdom and experience that you have now, what would you want to say to her? And oh, by the way, answering something like, oh, everything's been perfect, I wouldn't change a thing. No, that does not
no.
qualify as an answer. What would you share with 25 years ago, Virginia?
Yeah, it's okay to love yourself.
Wow, that's profound. Say a little more on that. That's pretty deep.
Um, oh God, Risley, you're killing me.
But do you think this
I
was going to
swear,
be
everybody, I am a strong, independent woman who knows a whole lot about business. Um, so one of the things that I think, and we make it about a man woman thing, like women are trained. No, we're all trained in some form of self-loathing and some form of deprecation. So, when Brene Brown talks about like shame and what shame looks like for women, and then, she talks about men, like the women in my life would rather see me dead than see me fall off my white horse, and these sorts of internalized messages that you are not good enough and you are loathsome and you are all the mean things that have ever been said to you or about you, and you listen to those messages and you internalize them and create a sense inside yourself that you're not lovable. And so you're going to do whatever it takes, including betray yourself, betray your values, but you betray yourself because you want to be loved from the external. And then the betrayal of the self just adds to the problem. Okay. So I just went through probably the most powerful year of coaching that I've ever been through. And um this guy, his name is GV Freeman, is like loves nothing more than to sit in the middle of your storm. Like he will sit in the dark with you, he will sit in the storm with you, he will sit in the tears. He just holds this space. And every time he's like, are you willing to turn towards yourself in love? Are you willing to turn towards yourself in love? And the day that it happened, like the day that I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And I would say, yes, but I don't know how. And he's like, I don't care that you don't know how. I just want I want to hear you say, yes, I'm willing to turn towards myself in love. And most people do it in 6 months, but I'm an overachiever, so it took me a year. Um, and it was just for me the most phenomenal thing. And now what's really cool, because you're talking about what would you say to yourself 30, 35 years ago? Well, my girls are 30 years younger than me. And so I'm saying to them, like my youngest terminated a pregnancy, was a cocaine addict, was in a relationship with a guy who was a thug. People held her at gunpoint and robbed her, like all of these things. She spent 6 years in just utter chaos and hell. And then got pregnant, had her son. She's a single mom. And I've just said to her, like, turn towards yourself in love. Love the girl that made those decisions. She was in pain when she made those decisions. Love her the way I loved her. Just keep loving her. And today, like 8 months, well, it was like 9 months ago, she left. She just, her corporate job violated her values and her principles. And she just picked up her little grooming shears and left, opened up her own business. And in 9 months, Ridgely, she now has 2 employees. She's the talk of the town. She was featured on the local news last week. And I just keep saying to her, like, just turn to yourself in love. all the time, no matter what bad thing happens, turn to yourself in love and talk to yourself like you would talk to your son. Talk to yourself the way you talk to your child. You know, you don't tell your child that he's the stupidest thing that was ever born. You say, wow, 6-year-olds make mistakes. Well, 27-year-olds make mistakes. And so it's just been an incredible journey to be able to pass that on to my children, because for me, I'm like, man, talk about breaking a karmic chain, right? Just this one moment. So man, if I could have done that when I was 35 and I was their mother, like I was entrusted with not screwing them up, I would have done a better job. They don't hold it against me. They're like, you were a great mom. Everybody wanted you for a mom. And I was like, well, imagine the moms that you're going to be, because you know how to do this one thing. And
Nice.
that to me is everything.
Love that, love that, love that. Thank you for that. So, 3 books or resources that you would recommend or share with the entrepreneurs out there, whether they're older entrepreneurs in experience or newbie entrepreneurs that have served you and helped you, what would those be?
Okay. So one is Think and Grow Rich. And I hate reading that book a lot. Like, it's hard to read. It's, it's old and convoluted and whatever, but I read it every January. Okay. So I think there's so much wisdom in there. And Napoleon Hill, like, interviewed some of the smartest people who have made the most money and been the most successful in their lives. So I think that one is huge. Daring Greatly by Brene Brown.
Tell me why.
Because it's this whole thing about being enough and being able to sit in the dark and being able to be with yourself in the dark, being able to sit on the poop pile with somebody else, like just really understanding the mechanisms of daring greatly. Because if you dare greatly, you will get beat up in the ring from time to time, and that's okay. And the world will tell you not. In fact, I won't reference specifically who, but there's something that happened in the news with someone in our industry that is just like a big effing deal right now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, give the person some grace here. Like, there was a situation, it happened, there was a reaction, but it's so easy for public opinion to erase all the good stuff about you in one moment of misinterpretation or ridiculousness. So that's just, for me, the daring greatly. You've got to learn how to dare greatly and take your knocks. And oh man,
yeah, there's just so many of them.
Okay, so one more. So I'm gonna say The Ohana Way by my good friend Scott Conway, because his model for how to build community has shaped everything about my life. It is about being an oasis, being a safe and refreshing refuge where people can come and count on you to be non-judgmental and to be a safe space for them. It's about harmony, which means embracing diversity and leveraging the power of diversity as opposed to condemning it. It's about assertiveness, which is respectfully moving forward, saying what you want, asking for what you want, finding people that can give you a yes, not holding everyone responsible for giving you a yes. And nobility, which I love, which is being your high and best self. And the best definition that we use in my community is you get a yes unless there's an absolute explicable reason why we need to say no. So that allows you people to be assertive, because they know that we as a community will say yes. The community will say yes to you. Unless it's, illegal, immoral, or just not possible. Like, we don't have the resources to do it. And then the aloha spirit from Hawaii, which means, you are family. And I love you. I want the best for you. And I will be the best version of myself for you. And that has shaped my worldview. It has shaped my community's worldview. And I highly, highly recommend that book for anyone who's building community.
Love that also. And then we love Brother Scott for sure. All right. Final nugget from Virginia Moose Kids to the world, to all the entrepreneurs that are out there. What would you leave them with as we conclude this moment together?
Mm. Don't underestimate the power you have to change the life of whoever crosses your path, whether they are a single mom struggling to put food on the table or Elon Musk. I have just found that we all have the power of a kind word, and we all have the power to do something that is meaningful for someone else. And particularly when you're networking up, not wanting something from someone that is in a higher level of success than you, but finding a way to contribute to them. Um, you know,
Yeah.
a cup of coffee delivered to Jordan Adler created a friendship that I will treasure forever. And he's the number one guy in send out cards with over $33 million in direct sales commissions in his life. I mean, he's a huge guy. So just never underestimate the power that your kindness and your gratitude can have to create relationships that you never dreamed were possible.
Yeah, I love the saying, if somebody needs a smile, give them yours.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Virginia,
Yeah.
for giving us this time. Love you, love you, love you. And I appreciate all of the wisdom and experience and knowledge that you shared with all of us. You are the bestest.
Thanks, Ridgely.